Welcome back to the NITE Economics YouTube channel, and tonight we're going to be looking at whether Bitcoin recovering the 200-day simple moving average, is this a bullish sign or not? If you're liking the content, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and without any further ado, let's get into tonight's video. So here I have the daily chart for Bitcoin. As you could see, Bitcoin has finally recovered the 200 simple moving average on, when was it, on Wednesday. It recovered it, and it's currently living above it for the last five days or so. The last time Bitcoin was above the 200 simple moving average was back here in November of last year. So is this a bullish thing or not? Well, it depends of when this actually happens. When Bitcoin recovers the 200 simple moving average on the daily, it is a very bullish thing when this happens on the pre-halving year. The pre-halving year is the year before the halving happens, or the halvening, whatever people want to call it, the halving. This is a very bullish thing when this happens on that year. This is not that. That would be next year in 2027. So I'll give you a couple examples of that, right? So, so you could see here, this is in the bear market of 2022. So that is the midterm election year, which is usually when midterm elections happen in the United States. Is when we have a bear market in Bitcoin. It's pretty much happened every time. Every bear market Bitcoin has been during a midterm year in the United States, a midterm election year. So the pre-halving year would be the following year, is a year before the halving. As you can see here, January 2023, Bitcoin recovered the 200 simple moving average after being away from it for a very long time, since pretty much January of 2022. So like almost pretty much two years later is when Bitcoin got below the 200-day simple moving average. And then finally, is it 2 days later? Sorry, it's one full year later, excuse me. January 2022, finally recovered, come up, gets rejected at the 377 exponential moving average, comes back down to the 200 simple moving average, and then it just kind of starts bouncing off of it. It's using it as support for the most part. Broke underneath it a little bit later in that year, in the pre-halving year, but then it is quickly recovered above that, right? So moving below it in the pre-halving year is not a death sentence. Usually it's going to recover relatively easily. Anyway, so this is the example of the last bear market. Before that, we have the bear market. And actually here we have this pre-bear market. This is the 2019, early 2020 bear market. If you follow Tom Cowan into the cryptoverse, he talks about this one being kind of like a mini bear market within a bull market. And this is the one, the top 10 apathy rather than euphoria. We'll come back to this one after, because it needs an asterisk, if you will. It needs to be highlighted in a different way, because it's a slightly bit of an outlier. But as you could see here, Bitcoin recovers the 200 simple moving average here, and this is in the pre-halving year. So is the year after the bear market. So it would be April 2019. 2018 was a bear market year, or presidential midterm year in the United States, which again, it coincides with the Bitcoin bear market. So as you could see, Bitcoin loses the 200 simple moving average here in March of 2018, and it lives underneath it up until pretty much 1 year later, April 2019, it finally recovers, and then it goes to it gets quite bullish from there, pretty much until June of that year, and then it enters this bear market that goes all the way pretty much into the pandemic, essentially. But Bitcoin actually got below it before that. It got below the 200 simple moving average before the pandemic, but a lot of this stuff was kind of leading into that. There was like a lot of bad news going out, and I think there was a lot of things going on in the repo market as well. I think there was like a quasi bailout in the repo market in fall of 2019, and I think it started like in the summer of that year, June 2019. So I'm not surprised you have this, because I'm pretty sure if you look at the S&P 500 during this period, I'm sure it was struggling as well. But so that's the asterisk. This is the mini bear market within a bull market. the top 10 apathy rather than euphoria, like Ben Cowan likes to say. But anyway, so here's the second one. And again, in a pre-halving year, Bitcoin recovers a 200 simple moving average. It's normally bullish, right? Even, I mean, if you ignore this wick down, you're gonna if you got in around this period, you were still pretty good outside of like you were under a little for like a day or two, and then you recover, so you're pretty good during this period. Okay, and then before that we have the last bear market that really matters, because before that Bitcoin was too young to really matter. So anyways, here we have our bear market of 2014. And then you could see this one's also lasted longer than the other ones, right? Because Bitcoin didn't recover its 200 simple moving average for like almost a year and a half. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that, right? Because it lost it, well, yeah, I guess it lost it here in March of 2014, and it didn't really recover it really until October of 2015. Yeah, so it's like a year and a half. So this bear market went a little bit longer, because as you could see, it actually 2015 would be your pre-halving year, and it didn't really get above. I mean, it got above it here, but then it was a fake out. It got rejected at a 377, came back down, went well below, and actually created a lower low that was lower than the low of January 2015. Which again, this is why I think people need to I'll say this in a second, but yeah, as you could see here, it didn't really recover until October 2015, and it's very late. This is Q3 of the pre-halving year. So this was an oddball in the sense that this was really Bitcoin's real first test, his real first bear market, and it lasted about a year and a half, and even in the pre-halving year, it was struggling to really establish itself really above this like $232 price level. It got up and then came back down, got up and then came all the way down to 100, imagine 150, 160 bucks for Bitcoin. But yeah, anyways, and established itself above it, and the rest is history. So what happened now with Bitcoin in our current history? How is that to our future timeline here, our current timeline? Bitcoin has recovered it in August of the midterm election year. This would be the first time in Bitcoin's history that it recovers the 200-day simple moving average so early, and that being a bullish thing. It's essentially not coming back down. I would say coming, because I'm if you've watched my video, the Bitcoin bottoming formula, you know exactly why I think Bitcoin is going to go lower in Q3 or Q4 of this year, sometime in that period. Maybe even a little bit earlier. If things get crazy, maybe it might even be Q1 of the pre-halving year. So this is one of the big reasons why I think recovering the 200-day simple moving average, people need to stay patient and wait. At least for the bare minimum, wait for Bitcoin to come and bounce off of the 200 simple moving average before you start saying that the bear market is over and the low is in. I don't think it's in. I think that this is way too early to tell. And as you could see in other periods, where Bitcoin, especially if we go back to the example of 2014, you could see that Bitcoin can get rejected when it gets above the 200-day simple moving average. Even when, let's see, where are we? This one. So you could see Bitcoin recovered the 200-day simple moving average, and this is late. This is very late. This is in July. It would be as if next year in July, Bitcoin were to recover the 200 simple moving average and then it got rejected big time. I don't think that would happen now. I mean, this was still pretty early in Bitcoin's history, but you could see it recover the 200-day simple moving average back in July of 2015, and it made a 25% move to the upside before getting rejected and creating a new low later in the year, and that new low was created in August of 2015 of the pre-halving year. So this is an example. I mean, mind you, it's not so early. Let's see if there's examples of it recovering it. Look, it recovered it here pretty early, but it wasn't a big rally, and this is very early in its bear market essentially it's in June of 2014. It's very early in the bear market, I would say. It's like almost like halfway through the bear market. Let's see if there's another example of Bitcoin recovering it really, really early in its bear market. I don't think there really is. I guess here, but it's really early. It barely lived underneath it. I would say this one doesn't count. And I guess the only really true example is here. Twice really here in another asterisk or another quotation or highlight for this mini bear market within a bull market here of 2019-2020, where Bitcoin loses a 200-day simple moving average. Mind you, it was away for only a month, if that. Recovers, is above it, and then gets rejected. Then it recovers again and then gets rejected a second time. But mind you, this is a black swan, so it's not so relevant exactly. It's not exactly to what's happening now. But again, I just want you guys to realize that recovering the 200-day simple moving average isn't guaranteed. That Bitcoin isn't going to come low or even lower or even create newer lows into the year, right? Or into this year and maybe even early next year. So this is why I'm telling you guys that you need to be patient with this. And before people really say that the low is in my opinion, I think we really need to wait until this year really ends. And, maybe even Q1 of next year be through. And then, mind you, I think that the low will be in before that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back and retests the low or near the lows again before having a big rally into the spring of next year, the pre-halving year. So I think 2027 is a year to get really bullish. I think it's really too early to really start saying that the low is in at this point. The low of what is it? 57. I think it's $57,700. And look, from the high, if Bitcoin were to go down from the high, to the low, it's only a 53% move. The last bear market, I think it was a 70. No, it might have been more. I think it's like an 80% move to the downside. So I do believe, obviously, there's diminishing losses, there's diminishing returns and diminishing losses in Bitcoin, but this is like a giant jump. A giant jump from the last one, right? In terms of diminishing losses. So it's the last one went down 77, almost 78%, right? And what I'm saying, why is this not moving? There you go. What I'm saying, my low of 47, let me see if I can bring back my drawing. My low of between 47 and 38,000, if you get to 47,000, it's a 62% move to the downside. You're still getting diminishing losses, and it's diminishing losses by a giant factor, right? And even if you were to get down to 38, 37, 38, it's 70, and you're still getting your diminishing losses, right? So, I mean, my base case is that Bitcoin's going to get down to 47,000 US dollars sometime in Q3 or Q4 of this year, maybe even as late as Q1 of next year, but I am highly skeptical of that. The only way I see something like that happening is if there's a little bit of a bear market, a little bit of scare in traditional markets later on in this year, and it lasts longer than people think, especially if you have a big drop in unemployment, then that could create some kind of like a bigger mini kind of recession, or maybe even a bigger recession than most people could possibly think. But let's wait until that happens, if that happens in the year to come. I am very bearish in terms of, like, I think a recession, we're bound for a recession in the next couple of years, but it's hard to tell when that's going to happen. Until that happens, it's probably better just to keep investing. But yeah, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you guys are liking the content. Again, if you're liking the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It's very helpful. If you know anyone that finds this kind of content valuable, please share with a friend. Leave a comment down below if there's anything you would like me to analyze, or something that I overlooked when I'm analyzing here Bitcoin on the daily chart and its 200-day simple moving average recovery and Bitcoin's current price action. Again, thanks for tuning in to the channel, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care and bye.